All right, well, let's get started. Welcome to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thank you for taking the time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community mentorship and learning. I'm your host, Dave Albright, co-host Dave Nava and Geraldine Hall. I'm a lead solution engineer at Salesforce and a Military Trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or co-host to take part in the conversation so that we can leverage their experience, expertise, and unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is exploring the Commerce Cloud solution and community. Something very new, really, to Dave and myself. So if you've ever wondered what Commerce Cloud can do, whether it's a good fit for your skills and interest areas or how to leverage the community for support, this is the session for you. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Amalia, if you want to start taking over, you can kind of get set, and I'll kind of give you guys an intro while you're getting set up. I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host panel for tonight's session, Amalia Murray and Andrew Lawrence. Amalia is the Director of Trailblazer Marketing at Salesforce. She's been in marketing for more than 15 years for startups, agencies, and corporations in technology, consumer brands, and media. Andrew is the Senior Director of Product Management for Developer Experience at Salesforce. He has over 10 years experience in product management and commerce and developer experience, as well as more than a decade of engineering experience. So I just want to quickly say thank you both for co-hosting with us tonight. And it'd be great if you could each take a moment to introduce yourselves further and share your Salesforce stories. Amalia, would you like to lead us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Good to meet you. And thanks so much for inviting us to be guests. Again, I'm Amalia, and I lead Trailblazer Marketing for Commerce Cloud. I have been at Salesforce for 6 years and have been in marketing for 15, probably closer to 20 years now. I first started using Salesforce as a marketer in about 2011. So I've been working with Salesforce for a very long time as a user and now internally. So I'm really excited to work with this community. I also wanted to shout out that I am a leader for VetForce San Francisco. So I've been a leader for about 2 years. I was just putting on my pin at the beginning of this call. My dad is an Army vet from the Vietnam era, and I have lots of folks to thank for, me being in San Francisco. He finished up in the Presidio when it was still an active place. He was at the Officers Club, and really excited to be here today.
Nice, great. Thank you.
And I'm Andrew Lawrence, so I'm a Senior Director of Product Management for Commerce Cloud. I've been in the commerce space for probably 20 plus years, initially doing engineering in a number of places, and then moving into product management over the last probably 12 or so years. I arrived at Salesforce via their acquisition of Demandware. So Commerce Cloud actually started with Salesforce acquiring a company called Demandware that did cloud-based commerce sites. So I was part of that acquisition in 2016. Interesting note about that is that Demandware prior to that had acquired the company that I work for in Salt Lake City. And because of that and the way that the start dates work, my start date that is on my HR record for Salesforce says I began in February of 1997. So I'm like number 5 on the list of employees. But technically, I guess I've been here longer than Mark Benioff, but not really. Only via acquisition. So great. It's great to be here with everybody. Looking forward to it.
Nice. That's impressive. 97. So for those joining for the first time, we always like to briefly explain the purpose of these office hours before we open the floor for questions and discussions. These sessions are an informal get-together for gathering with military trailblazers and allies to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding-related topics to help you achieve your professional development and career-related goals. The next hour is intended to be an opportunity for collaborative mentorship. Everyone on the call is encouraged to step up and help answer questions from your perspective, which will provide additional diversity of experience to the answers given. Please keep an eye on the chat window during tonight's sessions. I and others on this call share a lot of great information there, including learning, networking, and employment opportunities. If you'd like to ask a question at any point during today's session, please feel free to do so. If you don't feel as comfortable speaking up, you can also post your questions in chat. We'll do our best to monitor the chat window and also be looking for raised hands. Finally, tonight's session is being recorded. If you'd like to share an attribution-free comment, please let us know before speaking, and I'll make sure it's edited out of the final recording. So with that said, Amalia, I see you've got the screen right now. I'll turn it over to you, and you can go ahead and start working through your slides.
Yeah, I figured I would just start with an overview of the product. So just to introduce Commerce Cloud, for those of you that have never heard about it, this is the portfolio. So we've been an analyst leader in Commerce Cloud for 7 years in a row. And, you know, we have B2C, so business to consumer, as well as B2B commerce. We've got an integrated payments engine and order management. So we can basically deliver commerce on any channel in the world. And we've got amazing partners listed on the right. And then obviously we are built on the customer 360. So we can integrate the entire customer experience from discovery to delivery, you know, with Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and many other products. So we have a lot of capabilities. And as Andrew mentioned, he came from Demandware. So that's the B2C side. But yeah, we can get more in depth, I guess as in depth as you want to go. And that's why Andrew is definitely here also to provide that technical and product expertise. So David, actually, you know, I did have some slides here, but happy to just like work through your questions because I think we have the slides on hand to cater to whatever your questions are.
Yeah, so we'll start off with the first one there, just that brief overview, because like, as I said in the intro, Dave and I both work kind of really in the defense vertical, and we don't even use Commerce Cloud. In fact, for some of the solutions that we've done for our customers in defense, we've actually had to make custom commerce solutions with them using Flow and a whole bunch of other things, Lightning Web Components, to keep it within bounds for defense. So really just an overview of commerce and how it's growing. Like I said before, most of the folks in here are really kind of coming into the ecosystem. So understanding how they may be able to kind of transition into something like this and how the commerce side, the Commerce Cloud is really growing as one of the stronger clouds, and what that means to them might be a good intro.
Yeah. Andrew, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so let me kind of give some background there. So when Salesforce acquired Demandware in 2016, Demandware was at the forefront of bringing commerce to the cloud, essentially. For decades previously, commerce was often run by you'd run your own systems in-house. Nobody put anything in the cloud because that was too dangerous at the time. You'd have credit card numbers and all those things sitting up there. But Demandware really pioneered running a commerce system in the cloud and running multiple customers on top of that platform. And so that's why Salesforce made the acquisition of Demandware, and we started to grow it out. And today, the commerce portfolio consists of a lot of retailers and commerce places that you've probably shopped at many times, and the ones that often get brought up are Adidas and Puma and Under Armour and J.Crew and a number of customers that are running on top of the platform today. There are also some customers that you may not realize that are running under there. For example, Nintendo is running on top of the platform. So if you go to shop.nintendo.com, or even if you shop on your Switch, you're getting it's hitting Commerce Cloud behind the scenes. There are car companies that are running on it. We're now expanding into more verticals outside of just the retail and consumer goods space as we expand into healthcare, into grocery, financial services, automotive, and a number of other verticals that we're starting to get connected into and starting to put things out. So commerce really starts to spread from not just, you know, you go to a website shopping front and that's what you see, and it starts to spread into other areas as well. And most of that done connecting through the Commerce Cloud backend and operating all of those things.
Excellent, thank you. And so John Wood has a question here. As far as certification timeline, where do you recommend Commerce Cloud falling into the development of the Salesforce SME? So really, if you did admin, where would you kind of look at like a Commerce Cloud cert coming in?
So there's actually currently a B2C developer cert as well as a B2C architect cert. I guess I would lean to Andrew on like how many years of experience you would have before diving into that B2C developer one.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we'll probably just put out on the table right now is that the Demandware, the former Demandware stack, or the B2C commerce, is a separate stack that runs outside of the Salesforce core platform itself. So you can get up to speed and running on it, even if you don't necessarily have any Salesforce experience. You can get up to speed and running on the commerce platform. The B2B and D2C things that are mentioned in here are built on top of the Salesforce core platform. So having some of the base admin type things that are in there, and even some of the initial, probably mostly the admin and maybe the intro architect things, having in place as you get into commerce is probably a good starting point before you get into some of those areas with certification.
As memory serves me, and I'm thinking back to Salesforce Ben's kind of infographic on certs, I think there is a Commerce Cloud admin and a Commerce Cloud developer. Does that sound right, Andrew?
Yeah, that's correct. There are both.
Okay. Yeah, so it really just kind of depends on where you're kind of going in that vertical. If you're going to start kind of going into developer role, or if you're just going to do admin for it, which way you might want to go.
Yep, correct.
So with that, how does Salesforce Commerce Cloud help businesses in creating and managing online stores? And I know you mentioned a couple there. What advantages does it offer compared to other e-commerce platforms?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, some information here. So one thing that I'm sure a lot of you, if you're paying attention to Salesforce right now, we're talking all about AI and GPT. So at Connections, which is basically the biggest marketing and commerce event that we have every year, that's where we announced Commerce GPT. So there are a lot of cool, there's a lot of cool functionality, so that, you can use the right tool for your job and implement however you want. So whether you need to get to market quickly with the storefront templates, or using Composable for headless. And I don't know who's heard of headless, but Andrew is a product manager here that can talk a lot about Composable storefront for very customized and unique experiences, or even bring your own storefront to leverage existing front-end investments. So you have the flexibility here, and even hybrid storefronts, so you can create the perfect architecture to deliver your goals. Yeah.
I don't know. Expanding on that, I don't know how many people are familiar with the headless idea, but there's been a lot of movement, especially in the commerce space, but in web development in general, to move to what they call a headless type architecture, where you take the front end, or what's being displayed, the UI experience, if you will, and separate it from the back end and just use APIs between the two things to do all communication. And the benefit of that is it gives the developers or the merchandisers, the type of administrative people that are working on the front end, it gives them some independence from things that may change in the back end. And changing a back end are things like when you make a major change to a payment provider, or you make major changes to product data that might be put in there, or major changes to promotions and how they operate, versus the front end where it's UI of maybe how you navigate from one page to another, whether you see 2 products at a time on a page versus 3 products at a time on a page, and separating those kinds of things so that the two teams, if there are 2 teams, can operate at different paces. In the commerce space, there's a lot of change happening all the time, and retailers especially, but even some of these other health and grocery and finance, they're trying to keep up with their customers on making their experiences on the front end as engaging as possible. And often that means they want to change those experiences frequently, or at least make adjustments to see how they operate. And so by making that separation, it gives them some more flexibility. You'll see a lot of things about headless commerce out. You do a Google search for headless commerce, you'll find all sorts of things. Hopefully one thing you'll find at the top of the list is Salesforce Commerce Cloud, but no, it should be the case. But I mean, that's kind of a big push that is happening right now, what's out there. And so if you're in a development type track, that's something definitely you'd be looking at.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Unlike some of the other verticals, financial health, you're not going to see as much of a need to be rapidly changing to stay up with what your customer demands, right? Health you can put out and they're gonna come to it one way or the other if that's what they're dealing with. Whereas commerce, if you're not staying up with the competition, they're going to go to the competition. So I could see where that would be a great benefit. And that kind of makes sense with really how Salesforce works with APIs to communicate with other parts of the platforms without getting too nerdy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense then. So without getting too much into numbers, how do you see Commerce Cloud growing? Not to put you guys on the spot, but for a lot of the folks here coming new into the ecosystem, is Commerce Cloud, I see Marketing Cloud a lot and Commerce Cloud. So what do you see them growing for? Is this a great way to get into the ecosystem by specializing in it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. So Commerce Cloud has been growing a lot. Commerce Cloud passed the Salesforce. We always talk about the billion-dollar cloud, and Commerce Cloud crossed the billion-dollar cloud about a year ago. But really, it continues to grow, especially as we start to get into these other verticals, because we're starting to realize that many companies, they have commerce needs, even though they might, sell insurance or sell healthcare plans or these type of things. They still have commerce needs to be able to bring things in. And so it starts to open up a lot of opportunity for what's out there and what you can do. Amalia, I don't know, do we have the slide in here about the order? So one thing we announced at Connections, which was the conference Amalia mentioned that was just a couple of weeks ago, is order. I forget exactly what they call it. So order. The single order.
Are you talking about the GPT powered product descriptions?
Well, the product description is also the embedded orders to be able to use orders. So we have now opportunities with Commerce Cloud where if someone is using Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, the opportunity to embed reordering into those experiences easily is now something that's there. So maybe from a Service Cloud position, maybe you have people who need to reorder the same things that they've ordered before, and being able to bring that up in a service engagement quickly and facilitate reordering is now part of what Commerce Cloud can make available. In addition to pay now options, many times there are cases where even in industries, you don't have a full storefront, but you just need to take money from people and apply it to an order. The pay now options of Commerce Cloud will give them that opportunity as well. We can take various different types of payments and apply them to orders as a whole. So there are little pieces of Commerce Cloud that start to make their way into all sorts of other clouds, especially sales and service. And then Marketing Cloud plays a big piece of just how we do. Commerce has a full kind of weaved into Marketing Cloud. A lot of the marketing pieces that you will, or marketing things that you will do have effect on Commerce Cloud and vice versa in terms of data exchanging between the two.
Yeah, I think that's a great overview. And I was just going to ask you for like a strategic view for a lot of the folks on here who are really just trying to fight with getting their admin certain. How does the ecosystem work? Commerce Cloud, I think in the early days of getting into Salesforce is one you don't hear a lot about yet. You start to hear a little bit about Marketing Cloud, but usually it's sales and service, right? So just providing that kind of big strategic overview of how a business starts to look at Sales Cloud, how Service Cloud plays into it, Commerce Cloud, Marketing Cloud all kind of come together to give that, 360, the digital 360 for a company to use it. So what innovative features and strategies does Commerce Cloud enable for businesses to enhance that user experience and customer engagement then, with that last part being said?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that Andrew already mentioned that you see here, we also have features like conversational commerce and shoppable marketing. But yeah, we are really excited about the GPT-powered things coming soon. So here, promote these things are coming in the next quarter or two. They are on the roadmap, goals-based commerce. And again, like product descriptions even, something that you see on a retail site, that's coming in just the next couple of months. So AI really is integrated into our entire future roadmap. And I think, we are leading the way, in comparison to our competitors. So I think we're all really excited to see what's coming.
Yeah, based off of some of the recent, public statements that we've made, I think AI will be in most of our products, right? We've had a big push that everyone has seen probably on LinkedIn and across really the tech sphere, the big push to gain AI and GPT into everyone's products. But I could definitely see a huge push for it for Commerce Cloud, right? And Marketing Cloud, the ability to use that Chat GPT to kind of provide that natural language processing to help with sales and the marketing side of it. And, we've talked about that before on the show alone, how Dave and I use it just for figuring out formulas to do any dev work, coding, stuff like that, how it's kind of changed the game. So yeah, absolutely. I see, it on most roadmaps for most of our products. Jennifer asked a question: is the certification for Commerce Cloud admin available with Trailhead military program? Apologies, very new to the Salesforce world. And Dave and I might be best to answer that one. And I believe it should be available. There should be a trail for that. Is that correct, Dave? Have you looked at that?
I'm actually looking at it right now. And there's 19 certifications available on Salesforce military site. So if you give me just a quick second to peruse this list on my screen, I will be able to answer that for you. And I'll go ahead and post that answer in chat so I don't derail the conversation.
No worries.
I don't believe there is. There's definitely assets to learn Commerce Cloud on Trailhead, and I've been posting those in the chat. You can also do a search on Salesforce, but I'll confirm with you in a moment here.
Perfect, thank you. And Trailhead military, even if it's not, I think you basically have to, I don't think there's one for it on Focus on Force. So you'd have to kind of really find some other study aids to kind of work through it. But worst case scenario, if it's something you want, you're really only paying for the test. And maybe if you wanted to do a class, separate. So not a high overhead cost. Geraldine has her hand raised.
Yeah, it's actually a question, and it kind of piggybacks off the certification. I know when I was just kind of digging in and trying to learn a little bit about Commerce Cloud, it was really difficult to find a dev environment to be able to work and get hands-on. Have there been any changes made to that, or what would Andrew, you and Amalia recommend for people trying to get experience? Because a lot of people learn best with hands-on.
Yeah. So, aside from Trailhead, if you're referring to sandboxes, there are sandboxes available for partners specifically. But if you're an individual or a customer, they are not. But maybe Andrew can add some light.
Yeah, so there's a few ways. Molly mentioned the one to get sandbox. If you're looking for potential partners or ISVs, there are options to get sandboxes. For potential customers of Commerce Cloud, AEs and things can acquire trial sandboxes for potential customers. For individuals, it's not as straightforward, but there are secret ways that we can get trial sandboxes for individuals. So I have been prone to give some out. A trial sandbox will basically get you access for, I believe it's 30 days, maybe it's 60 days. Into the B2C commerce storefront and what they're there. So yes, you can, if you need one, let me know. Actually, you let either the Daves know and then get with me, or you can send me email directly, but we could work to get a trial sandbox that's out there.
Yeah, I don't need one right now. I just remember when I was looking at some of the areas, I think now there's been changes made for Marketing Cloud where you can get, your hands on in an org. I think that can sometimes be a barrier for people to be able to learn, especially some of these niche clouds, is that inability to have a dev org to be able to kind of get your hands dirty and learn by doing in some of these.
Yeah, and we'll say that those are for the B2C commerce platform, the former Demandware platform. That's the case. If you're looking at doing some stuff in B2B or with like the reordering portal, those type of things, you should be able to get those within Scratch orgs because they're just based in core. So within Scratch orgs, and there are things to enable to make sure you have commerce enabled in there. That's an option there. But to get the B2C commerce platform, yeah, those are the trial orgs. People ask why aren't they just readily available? I don't know. They haven't. There was a period of time after the acquisition of Demandware that we were actually holding back for proprietary reasons. We didn't want to make them available to everybody, but that has kind of gone away in the last 3 to 4 years. We just haven't developed a full program to make acquiring a trial sandbox automatic anymore, but we can create them.
Yeah, and you would think if there's a Trailhead trail for it, they'll have some kind of dev org that you can use to work with it, or a sandbox. Not a sandbox, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Playground or dev
Yep.
org. Or
Yeah,
playground.
Just a general environment for using it.
Yeah. Dave, you have a question?
Quick. Yeah, really quick. If you haven't seen this site, this does not address the Commerce Cloud dev org question, but it is a site filled with dev orgs that you may not be aware of. Some are yours to keep for as long as you log in and maintain them, and others are just 30-day trials. But I'll go ahead and post that in chat now. And there's a lot of great resources here if you want to dive into the platform and get hands-on with the various products that Salesforce has at its disposal.
Excellent. Thank you. I don't even think I knew about that. I might go look at that. It's always impressive when you're like, oh, wait, that's out there? Oh. So John Wood has a question. Which industry partners are we seeing the most value added in the commerce certification? And John, what do you mean by industry partners there? Are you talking about on the dev side or actually customers?
I guess a better question would be which industries specifically. From my understanding, if you're working with DoD or partners like that, they're looking more for like a service cloud focus. There's other industries that are more primed for sales cloud. Where are we seeing the most traction with Commerce Cloud?
I mean, obviously the biggest one in terms of industries is retail and consumer goods, because that's just commerce in general. That's all they do, right? But we're starting to see grocery is similar, but you'd be surprised how different grocery can be from just people trying to sell shoes or those type of things. But other industries that are really starting to pick up are financial services and healthcare. Those are really the other two that are starting to see more and more traction.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we get a lot of requests without going into the specifics of it in defense to kind of have marketing cloud capabilities, commerce cloud capabilities, but getting them certified to be authorized in the defense space is a little more complicated just because of how the stack works. But there's definitely demand for it out there. And Amalia has just brought up a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
All the different verticals.
Yeah, I just thought this might be a good showcase of the different industries and some brands you might recognize that aren't just retail.
Yeah, because there's a bunch on there I wouldn't have thought of, but that makes total sense now looking at it. And having built a custom e-commerce solution or helped build, because there was a bunch of us building it for a defense solution, like you think, oh, we just built a cart and you drop stuff in the cart. Well, it's a lot more complicated. I'm surprised Andrew is not laughing out of his chair right now. Like, yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that. So having a custom cloud that you could, or not a custom cloud, but a cloud product that you can just kind of drop in there for the solution would be so much easier. So, okay, so on to our next question. Could you provide a brief overview of the different roles within the Salesforce Commerce Cloud ecosystem and how they contribute to the success of online businesses? And we've kind of talked a little bit about the admin and dev side. If you guys can expound on that.
Yeah, so those are kind of the main ones that we see, especially in the Trailblazer community. But specific to commerce, we definitely have merchandisers. So they are a role that's quite common, especially for retail. We have our leaders that are creating the data. We have marketing folks that are also heavily involved in commerce. So yeah, these are kind of the main personas that we see for commerce.
Yeah, and to many of us with a military background, that's almost Greek speak, right? We're kind of looking at like, what does a merchandising specialist do, you know? And thankfully you put those things on there because I read your slides earlier and I was like, oh, that's how this works. And obviously you kind of mentioned the strategic leader there based on data. And we've talked a little bit about analytics on this show. And, you know, that is also often mentioned as some of the up-and-coming specializations within the ecosystem, right? CRM analytics, Tableau, or just straight up, you know, data analytics in its own, whether people do it through Python or R or something like that. And obviously, data kind of drives those decisions. So seeing CRMA with Commerce Cloud makes a lot of sense. Is that actually kind of built into it? Do you guys know? I'm sure it probably ties in pretty closely.
Yeah, there are a number of analytics things that are built into Commerce Cloud itself. For the B2B and D2C that are tied into the Salesforce core platform. There's all sorts of things you can take advantage of there. We have Tableau data feeds that go out, so you can get reports and data from Tableau as well. There is also a big push right now with moving data to the to Data Cloud, to new Data Cloud, and getting things pushed in out there. So ultimately, a lot of that personalization and things that people would expect from a commerce site will be powered by Data Cloud and what's happening out there, and with analytics available out there, insights available from out there, and ultimately personalization, pushing it back into commerce from the Data Cloud.
Yeah, and I'd say for everyone on tonight, if you take nothing else from this call, is to think bigger about, as you're coming in the ecosystem, these different routes and paths that you can go: Commerce Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Analytics, and how that specializes a little bit, but also gives you greater visibility into the job market, right? Like I said, most of us with defense background are like, well, I'm only comfortable in my defense vertical, right? I know how to speak that lingo, and that is important. However, if you start getting some Commerce Cloud experience, you know, that could increase your job market share, right? Your marketability. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would just piggyback on that to say I wouldn't worry so much if you're thinking, oh, you know, I don't want to necessarily specialize in Commerce Cloud because I don't want to have that niche skill set that I can't apply more broadly to the rest of the ecosystem. Developing those skill sets are a great way to actually make yourself more desirable. In case in point, on my and Dave's team, in the past, we actually had a solution engineer who was a Commerce Cloud solution engineer, came over, internal hire to our team, and did great. He brought unique perspective, unique capabilities and skill sets that we didn't have, and was able to create some pretty cool things for customers. So I would erase that concern from your mind. In preparing for this particular career field, you will develop some of the foundational skill sets that you can then leverage across the ecosystem to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I often say when I talk to folks trying to get into the ecosystem, right? The two hardest things in my mind coming into the Salesforce ecosystem is, one, passing your first test, right? It's usually a pretty emotional experience. And then two is breaking into the ecosystem itself, getting that first job. And so if things are slow and you decide to kind of do Commerce Cloud, and if it just opens up more jobs for you or more marketability, so be it, right? There's always an ability to pivot, gain experience. Chances are, if they're using, even if they're just solely using Commerce Cloud, you're going to be learning other things and still touching the core platform. So, Iris, you have your hand up.
Hello, gang, and thank you for being here, Andrew and the Commerce Cloud team. I apologize for being late, so I do apologize if this question's already been answered. Summer vacation and juggling all the kids, you know how it is. But I was just wondering, with Commerce Cloud, while we're talking about people who are new to the ecosystem trying to find that niche, would getting something like omni-channel, that's the capabilities of that, would that work well with the Commerce Cloud?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, omnichannel it can play a number of things within Commerce Cloud and how it operates. So omnichannel in commerce usually gets talked about in terms of being able to sell on multiple channels, but also being able to support from multiple channels as well. So there are Commerce Cloud tie-ins, for example, to like Service Cloud. The idea that you could go into Service Cloud and see so a call comes in, being able to look at someone and see their orders from commerce and what they have done and what they have bought, and even what they might have sitting in their basket that they haven't purchased yet. Those are all things that are common things from a commerce service perspective, from an omni-channel perspective. Our order management platform, so the Commerce Cloud also includes order management. I don't know how familiar people are, but maybe Commerce Cloud itself deals with everything on the site where you're navigating around and looking at products, searching for products, giving you pricing and promotion, putting them in a basket, and then ultimately clicking checkout and putting in a payment method, and you've paid for it and you've moved on. And Commerce Cloud has completed its job. But the job's not done, obviously, because you just bought something and now it has to get to you. And that's where order management comes in. Order management is a platform of Commerce Cloud that's built on top of Salesforce Core. It handles all the fulfillment needs required to send these items out to customers who have purchased things. And that's where omnichannel can come in. Any one given order could be sourced from 4 different warehouses to send you 5 different items, or sourced from in stores, or many different options that are in there. So another angle of omnichannel is using multiple channels to fulfill the item to people as well. So there's a lot of angles with omnichannel and commerce, a lot of use cases that are there, but certainly it's a number of options.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that summary on how it all works together, because again, some of us are pretty new here, so it helps to understand how it all connects together. So is Commerce Cloud the one who's responsible for sending me that email of you've left something in your cart?
Yeah, I mean, the Commerce Cloud triggers it. In many cases, it's probably actually Marketing Cloud that actually sends the email.
Okay.
But Commerce Cloud makes the triggering and has the cart information and is providing that, yeah.
Perfect. Reminding me I've left stuff in my Amazon cart.
Don't let it sit there too long. They'll start to really bug you about it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up, Iris, because when I came into Salesforce ecosystem and it started to just touch a little bit of some of these concepts, it's completely foreign to me, right? I'd flown all my life and didn't know any of this stuff. And so I was like, oh, I never thought about how that would work and how that would ping, a system to start sending you over and over emails, right? I know I'm getting them like umpty times a day, but what is the backbone of that? How does it all fit together? And then seeing how something like Sales Cloud and Service Cloud and how someone takes a call on something that's broken, but then they can see what you have ordered before and how they're able to kind of very quickly influence off of that and make decisions and pull up that data, or see the different articles about what we can do to fix it and so on, how it all ties together. That digital 360, when you put it all together, is pretty powerful. So we are at the midpoint of our session. So before I forget, which I often do, let's get a group photo for sharing on social media. This is important because we always need to be branding. We'll post this on LinkedIn and Twitter tomorrow, and we'll tag everyone in the photo. If you only have your first name showing in Google Meet and want to be tagged, please feel free to include your full name in the chat window. We'll pick it up. Makes it much easier for us to tag you. And for everyone who wants to participate in the photo, please unmute your photo and I'll grab a screenshot. I'll give you a quick countdown. Hold on any comments or anything, and I'll get this. I usually end up looking off somewhere into the distance and usually don't take the best photos anyway, as my wife tells me. So, all right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, I think I got one. I think I actually don't look as silly as I normally do. Perfect. Look at that. Big win. All right, so for our next question then, so kind of expounding on some of these concepts. What are the foundational, we'll kind of get into the foundational concepts and skills that aspiring developers should focus on when starting their journey with Salesforce Commerce Cloud.
Yeah, so specifically for developers, there are a number of things in there. So first, in terms of clicks to code, being able to set things up quickly, the B2B commerce and the DC commerce that running on top of core really they use Experience Cloud behind the scenes to actually build the front end experience for what commerce looks like. So if you're familiar with using Experience Cloud and setting things up, that's all very familiar for what's in there. From there, you start to move into people building on top of commerce are usually operating in most of the common web technology stacks. So JavaScript is a big piece of what happens for development. Of course, being able to create things in HTML and CSS is kind of foundational for just web development as a whole. And then as we start to move, we mentioned a little bit about headless and kind of moving the experiences away from the main stack and out into other things. Most of the skills that we're seeing people for developers bring up there are all JavaScript and React based front end. So you'll see things out there in market about single page applications for web development or progressive web app web development. Those are the types of things you start building. Once you really start to build some of the high performance sites, you're manipulating those with React and with Node.js and building things on top of them. So from a developer standpoint, that's where you start to kind of look for skills and what's happening.
And as Salesforce has transitioned into Lightning Web Components and doing modern front end work for the Lightning Web Components using JavaScript, CSS, HTML, I think a lot of those skills kind of transfer over, and that really is agnostic to which direction you go, whether you're a consultant, whether you're an admin, whether you're a developer. Eventually you will touch Lightning Web Components at some point, and it might be scary at first, but just getting a little bit of understanding of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, which CSS is the dark art as far as I'm concerned. I just spent a lot of time with CSS over the last 6 weeks, and still sometimes I'm just like, what? Where is that at? But, you know, just being able to transfer that into Commerce Cloud and how that works together, you just kind of see these continuing patterns, right? It's an industry standard.
Yep.
So
exactly.
let's talk about the Commerce Cloud community. Can you give us an introduction to the Commerce Cloud community and explain the benefits of being an active participant?
Yes, I'd be very happy to do that. So I manage the Commerce Trailblazer community as of about just a little over a year and a half ago. So while it's been around for a very long time, the products have been around forever. Salesforce only launched the official community a little over a year ago. So I actually put together a slide with a bunch of resources that we can share with you. And David, you could drop these into the chat as well. But so as I mentioned, there's an official community where Salesforce and me can post things like what's coming, what events are coming, Dreamforce, invite people to submit proposals for different events. I do marketing, so we're always looking to feature the voices of Trailblazers. whether that's across our blog, content, social media. But really it's about, connecting with folks within the commerce community and building a bridge between them and Salesforce. So second here is a very, very important community called it's officially called the unofficial SFCC community. So this group started, I want to say 2015, was it, Andrew?
Yeah, maybe even a little before that, but yeah.
Yeah, so this group is on Slack. And there are over 9,000 members, primarily B2C, so, demandware. And these folks self-started and just started sharing information with each other. Any technical questions you have when you're trying to learn, tips on how to pass a certification test, very specific product questions. There are channels for Headless and PWA Kit and what have you. But this community is so important to us. And so we have our official one to give you the official comms, but we're really embedded in the unofficial community as well. There are a bunch of other resources that I've listed here that link to Commerce Cloud specific trails, trail mixes, and Trailhead Academy. So there are 5 official Trailhead Academy courses that you can sign up for. I don't know, does the military program provide any discounts on Trailhead Academy?
I do not believe so.
I don't think so
Okay.
either.
We can, I'll connect the dots on the back end, because it would be great if, you guys are interested in learning more, if we can get you some sort of discounts to incentivize you to learn more about Commerce Cloud. We also have a Trailblazer mentorship program. You might be familiar with this because it's across all different clouds. So if you, want a mentor within Commerce Cloud, there are people both at the company and also outside the company that are just part of the community that volunteer to be mentors and kind of help you get started. And then I also listed here some community content that I think is pretty outstanding. So Salesforce Mojo is run by a guy named Shane Smythe. He's a B2B commerce expert, and he runs his own YouTube series. So Salesforce Mojo is what it's called. He's got, several thousand followers, but every week he drops a new video. So if you're a visual learner, you can check that out. The Rhino Inquisitor is a blog run by our Golden Hoodie for Commerce. We have one and only Golden Hoodie that was awarded last Connection, so last June. And he's just a content machine. He's a developer and an architect. So his blog also has a lot of how to get started on Commerce Cloud. Again, more stuff on how to pass certifications and things like that. And then obviously Salesforce Ben. This links to the Commerce Cloud specific articles on Salesforce Ben, many of which have been written by people from our community. I could keep talking, but I'm going to stop.
No, that's excellent. And I think that is one of the things that is everyone kind of recognizes about the ecosystem when you come in, is how helpful people are. And you find these little unofficial SF kind of spots, right? And people will go out of their way to help you and help answer your questions. And people don't really talk down to you. They're like, there's no one like, hey, noob, just go away and figure it out on your own. People are like, no, let me show you, or let's link up and I'll work you through that. Joshua has a question. Dave, did you have a question first?
I did, but Andrew answered it in the chat. I was wondering who that Golden Hoodie was, so that folks could connect with that person and follow their feed in LinkedIn to get more information on Commerce Cloud. So there it is in the chat. Thanks, Andrew. Please feel free to connect with them.
Yep. All right, Joshua has a 2-pointer here. A little more in-depth question. Is Commerce Cloud the tool for delivering services B2B that don't necessarily have a physical asset with complicated production lines involving multiple teams within a given business unit to complete the service? Example, Sales Cloud and Einstein manage to all the sales aspects of the upfront, but then there's a project management, data gathering element, customer configurations, network configurations, testing, and finally the service activation. I feel like I'm in college there, Joshua. I feel like I have to write an essay on this one. This is a doozy.
So the complicated answer is kind of. So it can facilitate some of that, but I believe for many of those things, you would still end up probably having to write some custom things within the Salesforce platform to accommodate some of those, especially for the full service and what that might look like. So the B2B offering can handle the getting products into a basket for checkout, but the building out of the service is probably still a custom thing that gets built in product.
That's fair. Thanks.
Does that pretty much answer it, Joshua?
Yep,
Okay.
that answers it for me.
That was a good one. I almost couldn't read that.
Sorry.
All right, so no problem. I'm just having fun. So more about the Commerce Cloud community, because that's such a great resource to work with as you're coming into the ecosystem, especially if you're interested in Commerce Cloud. Can you share some tips for beginners on how to use the Commerce Cloud community to find learning resources and support for understanding and navigating the platform?
Yeah, I think, again, joining those two communities, both the official and the unofficial ones, and just keeping your notifications on. There are some great channels in the unofficial community. There's a newbies channel. And then obviously we're very event driven. So we'll post up, some webinars, as well as, in-person meetups and things. So I would say join those and just get chatting, and people are really friendly and fun. And so I don't think you'll have any trouble feeling welcomed by them.
Perfect. Yeah, I know I was always kind of intimidated to ask some questions in some of the spots, and now that I've been around for a little more, like, you're just gonna go in there and lay out the dumbest question you can come up with, and people will jump right on it and be more than happy to help you. You should not be intimidated at all. It's an incredible community. So coming back to Commerce Cloud, and I know I kind of mentioned, front end, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, hashtag the dark art. Are coding skills necessary to build solutions on the Commerce Cloud platform? Is there a place for declarative developers as well?
I think with the B2B product and it being based, working with Experience Cloud and some of that, there is area for declarative developers building on top of that. As you get into the more high-end, like B2C commerce type, high-end retail goods that are running, millions of dollars through the systems in terms of processing, it does become a lot more development than declarative. So I think there's a span. You get lots of people, if you're selling, they may have a product catalog of 1,000 items, and you can do most of that Experience Cloud and build the experience in there and get that set up with the B2B, D2C product, and that can be pretty declarative. You can get up and running pretty quick. Once customers start to move into the angle where they have thousands of people visiting the site on a regular basis, then usually there's much more development that's happening. And then it's back to what we mentioned before. You're using JavaScript and React, and in some cases LWC, and looking there to build those things on top of it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of true. And I see your question, Dave. I think that's true of most solutions, right? As they go up in complexity, you kind of really start to see developers needed, right? Some kind of custom programmatic solution. You try and keep it declarative, but at some point, programmatic becomes the answer and gives you the scalability you need. So that doesn't surprise me that you say that. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so I've always kind of approached coding on the platform timidly. It's been something that has been, for lack of a better word, intimidating for me. And I know that you're kind of prioritizing that to expand your skill sets. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to kind of just share some of the resources that you've leveraged recently to help you learn how to code for those folks out there that may be wanting to pursue a Commerce Cloud career and move beyond the declarative skills. What's worked for you to learn those coding languages?
Yeah, I mean, to go to front end stuff, there's plenty of stuff out there on the internet if you want to learn front end development, right? JavaScript, CSS, HTML. Yep, coding for dummies. Udemy has some really good ones. I think Code Academy has one that's been taken by like 2.3 million people for JavaScript. So there's all kinds of stuff out there. Oh God, there's a purple book. I can see it in my head, but I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's a JavaScript one. And a lot of people have started that one. It'll come to me probably at 2 in the morning. I'll sit bolt upright, but it'll, if I can think of it here in the next couple minutes, it'll come to me. If you're just learning back-end stuff in Salesforce, David Liu's Apex Academy on Pluralsight is probably the place to start. I mean, it takes you from absolutely zero skills to how to become a developer in Salesforce and learn Apex. If kind of expounding on that, and I won't take too long on that, but the front-end development is something, development in general, coding in general is something that you can take. You don't have, you're not just limited to the Salesforce platform, right? If Salesforce was to fold up tomorrow, it's not, it's going to be okay. You could take those skills and transfer them to other segments of IT. Front-end development in particular is probably one of the fastest ways to get into IT and tech or coding or developing. So just something to think about. Let's see if I can remember that book. And if not, I'll float one more question out there. What practical steps, and we've kind of talked a little bit about this already on sandboxes, but sandboxes are probably a little bit foreign in concepts to some of the people who are coming on here, just coming into tech or, you know, transitioning into the Salesforce platform. What practical steps or strategies can beginners take to gain hands-on experience with Salesforce Commerce Cloud development beyond theoretical learning? There's a two-pointer.
Amalia, did you have any specific ones there? Or, I mean, I generally, I mean, we definitely, was it beyond just theoretical learning, like in Trailhead and all of those things that you can already take? Getting your hands on the product itself can always help. So you, the sooner that you can get your hands on the product, the better, once you have some of that initial thing that's in there. Because then you can start to experiment with some things. We have some things that are available. We talked a little bit about trial sandboxes, what we could do there. You can get dev orgs and scratch orgs today with B2C commerce. You have to install B2C commerce on it, but I think I saw someone in the chat mentioning that there are some Trailhead pieces out there that talk about installing B2B commerce and what that looks like from a trail perspective. Amalia, are there any others?
Yeah, I think just the trail mixes and Trailhead Academy are kind of the main ones. But again, I know that's theoretical. So, you know, if you're able to hand out some of those sandboxes, then that could be fun for folks.
Sandboxes for everyone. And probably back to Amalia's comment about Commerce Cloud Community, you go on there and say, hey, I'd like to get some experience on it. Some people will probably be able to point you at least in a direction, if not give you some access to some things. So where there's a will, there's a way. Dave, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I'm going to repost what Amalia posted earlier for those community links. So if you want to interact with folks to ask your questions in an online format live and build those connections, it's a great way to do that.
Yeah, and for anyone really looking for Commerce Cloud or looking to get a hold of Amalia or Andrew, please reach out to Dave and we can get you in touch. And I think their LinkedIn's both floated through here earlier, so it's in the chat. Like I said, just reach out to any of us. We can get you in touch. Yep. So it is 6 p.m. on the East Coast here. Before we close, I'd like to thank Amalia and Andrew for co-hosting tonight's session. It's been awesome having you here. I've learned a lot about Commerce Cloud and getting your perspective on some of the topics we have discussed. So thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. It's been great.
No, excellent to learn some of that stuff.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great meeting you all, and hopefully we'll continue the conversations.
Yeah,
thanks,
I probably will. I'll be reaching out for a sandbox tomorrow. So with that, thank you all for attending. I hope to see you probably in 2 weeks. I think our next one is July 12th with Salesforce Ben. Is that correct, Dave?
5th. Yeah, July 5th. Yeah, and for those, this is a different time, so it's 12 p.m. Eastern. because Salesforce Ben predictably is in London. So he's going to want to join at 5 p.m. BST. So go ahead and join at noon. It'll be great. This particular session is focused on how to bulletproof your Salesforce career. So with the market downturn, with folks that have been laid off or folks that are afraid of being laid off, these are expert guidance and tips on how to prevent that from happening to you. And if it does happen, how to bounce back and be resilient. So don't miss that one.
Definitely. So with that, hope to see you there on July 5th, 12 noon Eastern. Have a great Wednesday night, everybody.